giving us the answers to that, giving us some of the insights when it comes to the performance in that very specific area of human rights here in Uganda. And of course, I'm talking none other than Human Rights Commission. Well, this morning I am joined by the very special guest who is also the chairperson for this commission, the chairperson Uganda Human Rights Commission, that is Miss Mariam Wangadia. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Philo.
I'm very glad to have you join us this morning.
Thank you. This is my first time to be hosted on UBC.
Oh, wow.
And what a great honor
well,
and
we
opportunity.
are also honored to have you here this morning. Well, be part of our conversation, whichever and whatever we'll be talking about this morning between myself and Ms. Wangadia this morning. I do believe it concerns you as a Ugandan citizen, so get into our socials and Twitter, #UBCGMU, and feel free to use our WhatsApp platform, 0709-602-592. Any questions, I'll be forwarding them to our special guest this morning, and she will be giving us a few answers here and there. We do have some good time together this morning. Now, Ms. Wangadia, if we are going to get straight into it, the Uganda Human Rights Commission, very important commission. I know it's been in the media for very many times and for various reasons, but I think it's also very important to know what is this commission and what is its mandate.
This commission is created under Chapter 4 of the Constitution and also the Uganda Human Rights Commission Act, basically with the mandate to promote respect for and enhancement of human rights observance in the country.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, seeing as it
the
is
specific functions are laid out under Article 52 of the Constitution, and viewers may look at that.
Yes.
Those legal provisions, and you'll find the clear functions of the Commission.
Okay.
But they are all geared towards enhancing respect for human rights.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, the next question here would be, how independent is this commission, especially when it comes to executing its duties?
Starting with the legal provisions, the commission is independent and under the Constitution shall not be subject to the control of any person in the performance of its work. And to enhance this independence, under the Constitution, we have security of tenure. I have an uninterrupted 6-year tenure as chairperson of the commission, same with my members. And the procedure of removing any member of the commission is as difficult as that of removing a judge. We don't have the time to go through into that procedure of removing a judge from office. But suffice to say, we are firm. Our tenure is very secure. But also, this whole idea of independence, normally when people pose a question as to whether or not we are independent, they assume maybe we are somehow constrained by government or government officials. But I want to say that this independence cuts across all stakeholders, if I may call them. We are supposed to be independent of not only government, but of politicians, for instance, members of the public, maybe we are supposed to be independent even of the media. Yeah. We are supposed to be independent of our friends in the civil society organization, and so that our message is ours. But let me add that of late I've developed what I call reckless independence. I think that one is not okay. Let me give an example of that situation when we came under lockdown as a country on the directive of the president. And this lockdown was necessitated by the pandemic we were facing at that time, which required limited movement to check the spread of COVID. This lockdown came with limiting several human rights. I talked about movement. There was also freedom of association. There was also the right to education. Educational institutions, right from the lowest to the topmost universities, were closed. So the same happened with the shopping malls, for instance. Markets were limited. All this is limitation of rights, but which was necessitated to deal with a very serious, maybe bigger problem, such that the commission in this case, okay, that time I was not yet part of the commission, but I think it would have been reckless to say we are independent and we are directing you to open up. You are violating the rights to freedom of movement, freedom of worship, and all. So we are independent, but we should not be reckless in our independence. Yes. We should be mindful of the environment around us and the common good.
I think that's very important for us to actually understand and also acknowledge. But now, speaking of advancement and monitoring and all the responsibilities that are upheld in your mandate, looking at the status of human rights in Uganda right now, where are we?
Briefly, I can say that the status of human rights in Uganda is normal. We have made big strides in advancing human rights. And we are a peaceful country. We have a well-developed legal system. We have functional, independent courts of law. We have institutions like mine, the Uganda Human Rights Commission, to check mistakes where they occur and correct them. And when it comes to our international treaty obligations, we are up to date with our reporting obligations. We have submitted reports as a country to the committee on the Convention Against Torture and other forms of cruel, inhuman and degrading treatment. The committee on the Convention on Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women, and the committee on the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And these reports have been accepted as satisfactory. The committees to enforce compliance with those treaties have made observations to show that they are satisfied with our policies, legal systems, and the functionality of our institutions. The report on the rights of persons with disabilities is due for submission. So I should say the situation is okay. Philo, ask yourself why this country it ranks very high in refugee hosting. How possible is it for someone to run away from their country to another which violates human rights? The last I checked, I think our refugee population is close to 2 million people. Yes. Unless you are insane, you cannot run away from a frying pan
to the fire,
for instance. Yes. So I would say the situation is normal.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And you did also make mention of some of the things there, but we've had a number of stories, and again, this is in regards to missing persons. I mean, I am sure that you have seen this story being run through several media outlets, and of course, like you did say, sometimes we have reckless independence, and the media usually sometimes you have to be independent of the media. But we have seen these stories run in the media of different missing persons from different areas. People have come out making allegations, and even Parliament itself, I think it was in one of their plenary sittings last week, they were talking about missing persons and they needed answers. Now, we would love to know, where does the Uganda Human Rights Commission come in a scenario like this? Because now this has become a matter being discussed nationally, seeing as it is already in Parliament. Where do you come in here? Where do you offer your intervention in issues like this of missing persons? I mean, we've had stories where the drones, the so commonly known as drones, those Toyota Hiaces, picking up people from random places and taken to places where people do not know, people looking for their people. So is that part of the Human Rights Commission's areas of observation and intervention as well? And how would you help in scenarios like that?
Philo, sorry, I have a bad habit of shortening names.
It's all right, it's absolutely okay.
Philo, we have a serious challenge of disinformation and misinformation, especially in this country. And in the fullness of time, this hype, these persistent, relentless, vicious accusations of abductions of certain categories of people by state officials will be fully debunked. And it is sad to hear responsible people get on board to advance this false narrative. When I said the situation in Uganda is okay, I didn't say it's perfect. We are not a perfect country, but the accusation that there are abductions, kidnappings, or disappearances of people by state agencies on a large scale, those are false accusations. When I want Philo to remind viewers that the Human Rights Committee of Parliament devoted, I think, maybe 2 months investigating those issues together with the issue of torture.
This was last year?
Yes.
Yes.
Early last year. And Uganda Human Rights Commission, we were the first candidates to appear before that committee. I had a very tough 4 days with accusations like, Chairperson of the Human Rights Commission, what are you doing about egregious human rights violations of torture, abductions, and disappearances of opposition supporters? And we furnished them with the information we had on that issue. And I want to tell you, Philo, that some of those members individually of the committee have apologized to me. Because they were believing falsehoods. And I want to take this opportunity to request that committee to make their report public. Because we appeared there, institutions of government appeared before that committee. We were treated honestly quite harshly on false narratives.
Yes.
I want that report to be made public. After I appeared, during one of the 4 difficult days I appeared before this committee, one of the honorable members of Parliament, who is a member of that committee, the woman MP for Mukono district, said that in her district alone, more than 1,000 people have been kidnapped and disappeared. I was so concerned. And this was
in how long, in a span of how long?
She didn't specify the span, but within a very short time, over 1,000. This shook me. I immediately requested her to furnish me with particulars of the victims. And she said, before end of today, I'll have given you that information. She never did. And when I waited for about a month without hearing from her, I wrote her a letter requesting for the names, national identity card numbers, photographs, mobile phone numbers, places of abode of the victims, and their next of kin.
Yes.
I didn't hear from her. And to show that I took that matter very serious,
yes,
later on 31st of May last year, I wrote this letter to the chairperson of the committee, Honorable Fox Odoy, requesting him for the same information. I said, I requested the Honorable Nabukera to furnish us with details of alleged missing persons including their name, sex, village of residence, and so on. And we haven't received this information.
Okay.
This was the 31st May last year. Again, I got no response. But the accusations persisted until later on 28th of October.
Yes.
Of November, actually. No, 28th of October last year. I wrote a letter to the Secretary General of NUP requesting for the same information. Thankfully, he didn't take long to respond. Just the next day, I got a reply giving me a list of the people who are said to be missing. And surprise, they were not 1,000 plus.
Yes.
They were 25 names. And much of the particulars of these missing people,
yes,
we are lacking. Out of the 25 names given to us, only one had a corresponding national identity card number. And all the other 24 did not have those. And which begs the question, is it possible that all these 24 people do not have national identity card numbers?
Yes.
If so, then how are they able to vote? And but there was a little information which was helpful. He furnished us with mobile phone numbers, which helped us a bit. He also furnished a few contacts of the next of kin. And through this, coupled with our other steps we took, we were able to, it didn't take us even a week, to find 7 out of the people who are supposed to have been abducted and disappeared since 2019. We were able to find them so easily. Actually, I shared this information with the public. We were able to find that 3 of them were facing trial for malicious damage to property in Rubaga Court. 4 of them were responding to murder charges at police in Kireka. So, but investigation to trace the others continues. I also want viewers to know that some of the phone numbers provided, when we try to call them, we don't go through. So
there is no recipient at the other end.
There is no recipient, and others we are informed they do not exist on the networks. And when we went through with one of them, the call was not picked. But we are taking other steps, and I want to promise the country that in about 2 weeks, my report will be ready, and I will share it with everyone. So all these accusations are exaggerated, they are false, and there will be evidence to show.
Okay.
I also want to use this opportunity to call upon Ugandans to stop this habit of spreading false propaganda against their own country. This is about the country, not the government of Uganda.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, it is GMU agenda. This morning I am joined by Miss Mariam Wangadia, who is the chairperson, Uganda Human Rights Commission. And we are looking at the state of human rights in Uganda. If you have any questions, get into our WhatsApp number 0709-602-592, and also get into our Twitter. The hashtag is UBCGMU. Looking at some of the challenges, the mode of operation, if you ever wondered what exactly does this commission do? Do they answer to the questions related to human rights, the questions that you have? If you feel you are not happy with what they're doing, again, you can let us know. But again, they're giving you answers, especially to your most needed questions. Now, in your mode of operation, I also do believe that you come across very many challenges as a commission. And I mean, human rights, it's a very vital topic. And there are people who understand what a human right is. There are those who are probably finding themselves in a gray area, knowing what a human right is and what is not. So what are some of the challenges you come across as you're trying to, you know, fulfill your responsibilities as a commission?
Thank you, Philo. Some of the challenges include limited resources. It's impossible to deliver satisfactorily on our mandate without adequate resources. But we have hope that quite soon, yes, government will come to our rescue. And the other challenge, I think I've mentioned it, disinformation, misinformation, which actually may distort our work. There has been a tendency to politicize human rights, to adopt accusations of torture, abductions, or kidnappings as a tool in the hands of politicians to build a campaign, to attract sympathy from the public. And I think this is wrong. And naturally, as a human rights institution, we tend to be a target of attack by those who seek to use human rights as a tool for political mobilization. Yes. I think that is not okay. The other challenge, I may say, is false expectations. False expectations, maybe one day I may get a program to talk about it in detail.
From the Ugandan citizens.
Yes. Yes. The false expectations are that there is a thinking that law enforcement is an enemy of human rights. And I want Ugandans to understand that law enforcement is part and parcel of enhancement of human rights. Philo, imagine a day when there is no police, for instance, around our shopping malls, yes, in the markets, around UBC, around our office buildings. There is no police on our streets. There is no police in our neighborhoods for just a day. Just imagine that kind of situation. So the false hopes I'm thinking about are that this commission must come out repeatedly, relentlessly, over and over again to attack, to throw little rocks, to antagonize, to go after security agencies, to issue statements against them over and over again, to make this our daily business. And I'm saying this has to change, that perspective has to change. And when we don't do that, then we are labeled incompetent. I think that is not okay. We have that challenge of making our people understand that we need law enforcement as part and parcel of promotion of human rights. We need to fight crime. And those who fight crime ought to be appreciated. But when they make mistakes, we intervene to correct those mistakes.
Okay, all right. Now, we can't talk about the Human Rights Commission and we failed to mention the tribunal court sittings. Actually, in the very first one, you gave directives. You actually directed the Attorney General to compensate 4 persons for damages during conviction and detention. Now, the sittings had actually, you say they had paused for a while, but you resumed recently. But what's the whole, what's the instance of these court sittings and what are you looking at right now? How many cases are you looking at making sure you reach a common ground, especially now that you have resumed?
Yes.
And what regions are you also looking at, you know, where you want to have these sittings?
Yes, Philo, we resumed these tribunal sessions yesterday after pausing a while for a few months. And what's different this time is that we will be sitting as a panel chaired by the chairperson of the commission. Previously, the sessions used to be chaired by a single commissioner.
Okay.
But it was decided that we should sit together as a panel of at least 4 people, with the chairperson chairing that panel. We started this week. We are in Kampala. Actually, immediately after this studio program, I'm going to preside over another session for today with, I think, 9 cases. And next week, we will be in Gulu district, and thereafter, the next week, we will be in Soroti doing the same work.
Okay.
So you asked about the importance of these, of the tribunals. The importance of the tribunal sessions is that I look at a tribunal as the enforcement tool of the commission. After receiving and investigating complaints, where we think they meet a threshold for a hearing, they have to be taken before the tribunal for hearing and redress given where necessary. So it wouldn't make much sense to investigate an issue, you find wrongs were committed, and then there is no remedy given to a victim. So that is the purpose of the tribunal.
Okay.
And that is its importance. But let me say this. I mentioned false expectations as one of the challenges. It's almost depressing that, for instance, all the cases we had yesterday, or rather where we delivered decisions as we call them, the victims are people who have had conflict with the law. You find that the address of this person coming before you as a victim of human rights violations is a prison. Perhaps the most interesting is one of those I'm going to have today. There is a victim of human rights violations who is coming to appear before my session today, but whose address is Ruzira Prison, where he is serving a sentence of murder, a sentence for murder,
yes,
and aggravated robbery. So, when I mentioned mistakes, I can give this example without going into too much detail, since I'm going to give the decision later.
Yes.
That in the course of the police intervening to protect a victim of robbery and murder, they could have made mistakes along the way as they carried out the arrest and the interrogation of the suspect, who turned out to be convicted by the court and is serving a sentence. But this person came to the commission as a victim of human rights violations. I would wish to have a situation where the people who come to us for redress are not those who have been in conflict with the law. So what do you think about the family of this person who was murdered in the course of his property being robbed from him? What do you think goes on in their minds when they see this man before the Human Rights Commission as a victim of human rights violations, being awarded so much money? So, for which I want to pause here and request that the law enforcers, in this case the police, should as much as possible strictly follow the law and procedure when carrying out investigations.
Yes.
But I think also something has to change at a certain point. A situation where all the victims before you are also either criminals who are convicted or who are facing trial or who are under investigation. I think it sends the wrong message to the public.
Okay.
Yes, we will go ahead with our tribunals, but internally we will do a bit of modifications.
All right.
Yeah, where necessary.
Well, assessing Uganda's human rights progress here on UBC TV GMU agenda with the chairperson for Uganda Human Rights Commission, that is Ms. Mariam Wangadia. Let's talk about the issue of backlog cases. The commission is looking at about 1,700 cases of a backlog since 2004.
Yes.
What is not happening?
A lot has happened or not
happening
or not happened. There was a time when there was, technically speaking, no commission. After the death of the chairman, the late Haji Medi Kagwa, and it took, I think, about 2 years before I was appointed to replace him. Now the constitution defines a commission as a chairperson with at least 3 members, other members of the commission, such that in the absence of a chairperson, there is no commission. And where there is no commission, then the tribunals cannot be convened. So it's like, technically you can't even submit a report to the Speaker of Parliament, because again the law says the report should be signed by the chairperson. So there was that. But there are also a few other challenges, like resources. So, and then, like I said, these sessions will continue, but with modifications. Ultimately, we may find that these 1,700 cases are what I may call, they constitute a cosmetic backlog. When you unpack them one by one and thoroughly go through them, I think there are some which do not deserve to be before the tribunal. And very soon I think I'm going to take steps to close them without a hearing.
Okay.
Yes, where the evidence is totally lacking and unattainable. By the way, there are some where the complainants are not even around. Very interesting. Yesterday, I was due to deliver 6 decisions. I delivered 4. Why? These other 2, I didn't go ahead with them because one of the complainants who brought the case before us is serving a sentence in Kenya for causing death to a child. So I talked of the nature of our victims. This is one of them. A serial offender who ran from Uganda to Kenya and was convicted of reckless driving and without a driving permit and caused the death of a toddler. He's serving a 20-year sentence.
Yes.
Then the others, the other case where I was due to deliver decision yesterday, issues emerged about the identity of the complainants. 3 complainants, one of them did not show up. The other 2 who came they struggled to identify themselves. You ask for their national identity card numbers, they don't know them. Okay, but show us your identity card, they don't have them. Then somebody is saying, I'm not Moses, I'm Musa. And all along you look at every page on this file, his name is Moses. But now he's saying he's Musa. So that category of files constitute a big percentage of that backlog. And I'm saying the backlog is cosmetic and we are going to reduce it.
Okay.
The way we deem fit.
All
yes.
Right. Now, with all the challenges that you've talked about, Ms. Wangadia, what's the way forward for this commission? Because at the end of the day, we would love to see it. I'm sure you also love to see yourselves perform efficiently and manage all these pending cases. I mean, what is the way forward? What's the plan?
The way forward is we will continue to execute our mandate under the law as it is. We will continue with the civic education, and this time my plan is to expand it beyond security agencies. Currently and in the past, when we talk of civic education, It's about, okay, we are going to train policemen and women. We are going to train the UPDF, the Uganda prisons. I want that to extend to the communities so that people know not just their rights and freedoms, but also their obligations as citizens of Uganda, so that people know about their obligation to be law-abiding and to respect the rights of others. Some of the crimes, there are people who argue that crimes are not human rights violations. I tend to disagree. We have seen videos of vicious forms of domestic violence. Yes, within the homes.
Yes.
Mothers beating up babies, you know, with the sandals. And some of those assaults lead to life-changing situations. So we need to reach out to everyone in the communities. We will continue to inspect places of detention. We will continue to receive complaints of human rights violations. And please, I want to appeal to the public. I want to receive complaints from law-abiding Ugandans.
Yes.
It's absurd that we continue to receive complaints from people who have hurt others badly. These are the people who bring complaints to us. And sometimes you wonder whether these complaints are not brought with a motive to distract from the crimes these people have committed. Yes, you are in court facing a trial, maybe for defilement. At the same time, you are a complainant before the Human Rights Commission Tribunal,
yes,
as a victim of violation of human rights. So I want us to continue with this tribunal role, but with the right victims before us. Otherwise, like I said, we risk sending a wrong message to the public,
yes,
that an illegal act can somehow, that the Human Rights Commission can somehow sanitize a criminal and turn him or her into a victim of human rights violations, and they walk away with millions of taxpayers' money.
yes.
The same taxpayers they have wronged. I look forward to a situation when that will be corrected.
Wow. Yes. Well, assessing Uganda's human rights progress, we are coming close to the end of this conversation. I do have quite some feedback here from a gentleman called Tusime Moyebesa from Chigo, who says, I'm happy to hear an objective submission by the Uganda Human Rights Commission chairperson. They're doing a good work despite very limited resources. Again, this is one of the challenges that you talked about earlier on. And I do have Karunji as well, also talking about the harmful propaganda against our own country. I mean, what would be the ideal thing to deal with that, especially for the propaganda case, where we are accusing people of breaking our human rights, even when they're not?
I think ultimately it boils down to patriotism. Is it okay that you bash your own country relentlessly and falsely? Do citizens of other countries attack their own countries the way we do ours? Once in a while, when I get limited time over the weekends, I look at social media. For instance, in our neighboring country, Kenya,
yes,
they have just gone through an election, and this was a hotly contested election, but the supporters of Azimio la Umoja,
yes,
Alliance, they don't attack their country. They on social media, the way we do, they don't bash the Kenya Defense Forces. They don't attack them. On the contrary, they praise them for standing up to Al-Shabaab and for now their peacekeeping role in DRC.
yes.
They do not bash the Kenya police. They are not hostile. to state agencies, but they target politicians in the Kenya Kwanza ruling, the ruling coalition now. How I wish we could do the same, but ours has gotten out of hand. The chairperson herself has suffered severe online abuse.
Yes.
But they say when you can't stand the heat, you get out of the
yes.
you get out of the kitchen. Yeah, and I'm still in the kitchen, and I promise to remain there until my tenure ends. But we also have laws about, I think we have certain laws which we are not enforcing. And it's not up to me to say which laws must be enforced against who, but perhaps if self-regulation cannot work, then maybe at some point the law enforcement may have to come into play.
All right. Thank you so much for those insights, Ms. Wangadia. And of course, this brings us to the end of today's discussion. Well, Ms. Mariam Wangadia is the chairperson for the Uganda Human Rights Commission, and they promise to continue doing their duty, their responsibilities to serve all those that need their intervention, all those that need their help. Well, I will leave it at that, but we do have Ruben Mpima coming in with the sports updates, and GNU Extra is also queued up after that. I will have to leave you for this morning. Allow me to wish you a wonderful Tuesday. I am Philomena Mastiko.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios,